Well, how are you guys doing today? Seems like whenever I go away, stuff happens. Right now, we are talking about a recent book put out by the Lazy DM, Sly Flourish. And oh boy, does it lean into a lot of the stuff that we hate. Let's get right into it, shall we? Okay, so this is the book in question. It's Forge of Foes. Now, in the past, you would have looked at something like this and just said, oh, looks, maybe good, maybe bad. But hidden inside are some real doozies. You can see the authors down here. Michael E. Shea, that is the Lazy DM, that is Sly Flourish. So he's kind of putting his name last here, but that's actually this is his brand. Scott Fitzgerald Gray, I don't know too much about. And then teosAbadia. If you don't know who that is, he runs a terrible YouTube channel, I think called Mastering Dungeons. It's the most boring, terrible YouTube channel in this sphere that I've ever seen. They've been around for a while, and their channel does not do very well. It's you can kind of see why when you look at good old Teos there, and there you see Mike Shea, aka Sly Flourish. Let's just say these guys are not going to be winning any testosterone level contests in the near future, and we'll leave it at that. Okay, so this is what we're talking about here. This is the crux of it. They're kind of talking here, and I don't know who wrote this passage. And our friend Harmony Ginger, she had a kind of a tweet about this go viral on X, and she was quick to say, like, there were other authors. Could have been any one of them, not necessarily Mike Shea. Don't necessarily go after him. Well, I would only say that could be true, but in the same respect, that's his brand on the front. So he has to take responsibility for what's written, and he could have gotten rid of any of this. And from what we know about Mike Shea, I think he believes all this. So I think he is really good with any of this stuff. But they're just talking here about anti-colonial play. And the first time I heard about this was our old friend Connie Chang, colonialism in D&D. Well, first they talk about, talking about 50 years of D&D and how unrecognizable it would be to players of the game in its first war game adjacent incarnation. So they're just trying to say here that 5e has evolved into some sort of beautiful creation. It really hasn't. In fact, it has devolved in many ways. But they say the worldview holds a starkly colonialist view of the relationships between the game's heroes and too many of the other sapient peoples, humanoids and other creatures with intelligence, awareness, language, and culture, who often play the part of the game's foes. Well, who else is supposed to play the part? Good Lord. The ongoing legacy of colonialism is the foundation of a great deal of what's wrong with the world. And a book like this is clearly not the venue to try to fix what's wrong with the world. Here you see some, false modesty here. Of course, when they wrote this, they were probably thinking like, we're going to strike a blow against colonialism. This is going to be, our entry into the ongoing battle. This is so silly. If you asked a person on the street, if colonialism is a huge problem today, they would first kind of scratch their head and say, what do you mean? Are you talking about like in the 1800s, when the British were expanding their empire around the world and making a lot of places better? We can't say that though. But anyway, that's probably what they would ask. And they would have no idea, and rightly so, of why colonialism is relevant today, because it's not. But it has to be relevant for a certain number of people so they can hold some clout in leftist circles. They say it's a problem worth fixing. The topic of colonialism in fantasy gaming deserves far more discussion than any one section of a monster book can, again, with the false modesty here. They're trying to fix it in their own stupid way, and failing. The sidebars in this section dig in just a little bit to the starting points of colonialist thought and pervasiveness in the real world. But even those brief discussions aren't the real point of us wanting to talk about decolonizing monsters in Forge of Foes. Oh boy. We want to have this discussion because being aware of and rejecting colonialist ideals in our fantasy role-playing games make those games better. No, they don't. No, they don't. Lord of the Rings would not have been better if they tried to humanize the orc commander, invading Gondor. Heck, even Peter Jackson didn't try to humanize him, just wanted to put kind of a face around some of the lead orcs, both in Fellowship of the Ring and the Return of the King. And you could argue that even that they weren't that great of an addition. He was just showing them being what they were, evil. We do not need a kinder, gentler orc or goblin or orog or ogre. This is lunacy. They continue, because the more interesting you make the peoples and sapient creatures of your world and their place in that world, the more interesting your story. Well, you can have a race of monsters encroaching on your territory or the territory of civilized lands. You can even say, hey, they're being displaced by some sort of natural event, so there is a reason for them coming. Or maybe it's just conquest. Yes, they can have motivation. In fact, a good DM would provide them with some sort of motivation, story-based, not politically correct based. But you do not need to think of the starving goblin children. You just need to know that they need to move, and they are coming down to invade your territory, and they will kill anyone in their path. And that is perfectly fine for a race of fantasy creatures. These are monsters. These are subhumans. These are a different race, species, whatever you want to call it. They are evil. There are races in this game that are evil. Kill them all and let the gods sort them out. They go on here and provide a checklist for better playing. This is to decolonize your games. Avoid monolithic ancestry cultures in favor of broader cultural worldview. No. Use ancestries as adjectives. Gnoll bandits are attacking villages rather than gnolls are attacking villages. You don't have to do that because gnolls are evil. And look, it doesn't mean you can't have a single gnoll or a small group of gnolls who break away and maybe aren't bad. That's, again, might be a good story. But it would be a good story because they are breaking away and going against the grain of what they are. But this need to suss out, that every gnoll has a story, it gets boring and burdensome. That's the most important thing. It gets burdensome. Your players shouldn't have a moral quandary when they swing their sword and cut the head off of a gnoll. They are bad because the story needs them to be bad. They go on to say, focus on villainy as a choice, not a biological or cultural imperative. Wrong. There is a certain religion in this world that deems anybody not of it an infidel. And they may pretend to coexist, but at their core, they want everybody in the world to be like them. That is our real world, by the way. Focus on villainy as a choice, not a biological or cultural imperative. Funny how they don't talk about this stuff when they paint all white men with a broad brush. It's never individuals when it's us. It's always as a group. It's white men, the patriarchy. They have no problem painting broad swaths of the population with the same brush when it serves their purpose. But literally in a game of make-believe, they want you to think of Chim Chim, the better-than-he-looks goblin. Are you kidding me? Avoid the trap of perceiving civilization from a single viewpoint. Settled lands equal civilized lands, so that everywhere else is uncivilized. This will get you a boring game. You see it in Robert E. Howard, his writing. There's the civilized lands, and there's the uncivilized, the barbaric lands, the lands of the Picts that are encroaching on civilization. One of the best stories ever written, Beyond the Black River, a Conan story, which doesn't have a ton of Conan. It has some Conan in it, but it's, more about the fight of civilization against these things. And it's so poignant, so beautiful. And just think about that. These anti-intellectual morons would want that story gone, stricken. It would not pass muster to them these days. That tells you all you need to know about these folks. Understand and move away from the trope of heroic characters as the saviors of lesser folk. Well, that's rich, coming from people who think it's their duty to be a white savior to black and brown people, as they say. Very, very rich. Make use of cultural inspirations from reliable sources, ones that have been vetted by them, with the aim of centering other cultures and perspectives from a position of respect. And then here in the call-out block, Colonialism, the short version. I mean, this is just grade A propaganda. You bought a book, thought it was going to be about playing your game, and you get a free lecture. And then I guess this comes from part of that same book. This is almost astounding. They're talking. This goes along with talking about the gnolls from the prior page. Every gnoll is an individual. Well, here they're talking about goblins. When they're attacking, and it says, for example, goblin cultists are attacking the village, or goblin bandits are attacking the village. Goblin refugees are attacking the village. Goblin men's rights activists are attacking the village. To tweak the noses, of us chuds. And they put that in there. Goblins, men's rights activists are attacking the village. And that tells you everything, of course, you need to know, not just about, their view of how terrible role-playing games probably are at their table. But as I said before, these are not the most manly of men. If I exuded this kind of energy, I would have a problem with men standing up for themselves too. Their worldview is slowly but surely becoming a laughing stock. And I just hope I live, long enough in the next, probably 3 to 5 years to see these guys ridiculed for this stuff and have it thrown in their faces constantly. Here, I saw this also from Bugbear Brothers on X, so give them a follow if you can. Now, I think he puts this out as an example. I think this might be from the new MCDM. That would be the Matt Colville game. Just to show you, it's not just 5e. It's kind of all these like soy people. They're all the same. At the end, Marrow-Gnaw is a really big spider. If you or any players in your group don't enjoy descriptions of skittering spiders, you don't need to go into detail while narrating scenes with the creature. You could also turn the war spider into another creature, like a war lizard with sticky saliva. A bucket of spiders also serves as a trap in Area G9. You can similarly reflavor this trap. in days gone by, men 18 years old would be shipped off to fight a war overseas. Now those same men cannot wrestle with imaginary spiders while sitting around a table, ostensibly with a bunch of friends. There's that old saying, that hard times make strong men make good times, and good times make weak men, but weak men also make hard times, and that is right where we're at right now. And we are almost ready to go back up top on that cycle, which is a good thing. But this is not a great time to be around. Dealing with all this stuff, which is just so silly and such a waste of energy, is it not? This is the effect of, 60 years straight of the brainwashing of the left, this cultural Marxism that we are dealing with. It is no good. Sort of thing preys on weak minds, people with weak spirits, You don't have to worry about colonialism in your game. Don't think twice about it. You can have the orcs come down from the north, or the goblins, or the gnolls, or whoever. You can have them commit any kind of attack, assault that you think is right for your game. And then it's up to the characters in your campaign to set things right. Lead an army, go on a commando style mission behind enemy lines, chock full of good stuff. What's not fun is having a skull session, with some of the higher ups of the orc hierarchy, and finding out what their needs are. I have this vision of somebody turning their helm backwards like they would a baseball cap. Back in the '80s when you were about to get a lecture on on drugs. Just listening to the orcs talking about their gripes and how humans just aren't getting out of the way fast enough for them, and just having the human nodding and saying, "Okay, we can work with that. We can work with that." This is all lunacy. If you believe this at all, I don't know why you're following this channel, but I laugh at you. You are silly. You are stupid, and you should be gone. Be gone from this hobby. We don't want you. And in a few years, you are going to look terribly, terribly stupid. You already look stupid to us now, but slowly the world is waking up to you, and it's not going to be good for you. And then you people will be stuffed into the lockers like nerds of old, and order will be restored. I thank you guys so very, very much. I promise I will go on camera again. It's just some things are happening in real life right now. I have to kind of bang these videos out quickly. We will have a live stream as we do every Wednesday at 7 p.m. The Lair. Hope you join us there. We'll go into this a little bit further and see what you guys have to say about it. I hope to see you there. So that's all for now. You guys take care. Have a great, great rest of your day. We'll talk soon. Peace.